Welcome to the Tulsa Zoo and congratulations! You've been hired because we believe in you and your ability to deliver world-class theme park service to our guests. And now the indoctrination begins. Just kidding, but we will take this opportunity to explain to you the Tulsa Zoo's values, policies, and expectations of you as a Tulsa Zoo employee. And I promise, we won't bore you. At least we won't bore you to death, but as a precaution, we have removed all sharp objects from the room. First off, this job is awesome. You're getting paid to come to the zoo. I'm sure many of you have visited a rather famous magic fiefdom featuring a mouse, rodent, with a high-pitched voice. Well, that's our goal here at the Tulsa Zoo. Not to have talking rodents, but to provide a fun, top-notch theme park experience for our employees and our guests. The nicer and more pleasant we are to our park guests, the nicer and more pleasant our park guests will be to you. It's a given that you'll get asked really dumb questions during the day.
May I help you?
Yeah, where's the elephant exhibit? Oh.
You will encounter some grouchy people. People will have some ridiculous demands.
Ma'am, now I promised my son he was going to get to ride a tiger today, and that's what he's going to do.
But it's all in the way that you handle the situation that determines whether the guest leaves happy or comes to the office to complain about you on the way out.
If you go right down, just about 100 feet that way, and turn to your left, you will be right in the entrance.
Oh, thank you so much.
And enjoy.
1,
No,
2,
well, maybe regular size steps.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Well, sir, here at the Tulsa Zoo, we do have wild animals. As much as we would love for him to experience that, we cannot guarantee his safety.
Okay, now here are a few examples of things that frustrate our guests.
Hi, where are the elephants?
Oh, elephants. Oh, they're over here by the HTC building.
Oh, hyperactive dinosaur choir? Health Disease Center? Human Discipline Component. Hyenas don't cry?
You'll come to refer the Helmrich Discovery Center as the HDC, and who wouldn't? It's a mouthful. But guests have no clue what you're talking about, and if they go to reference it on a map, they're gonna come up blank. So don't frustrate our guests. Helmrich Discovery Center, Jaguar Junction, Trunk Stop, and the Macaw Landing Grill. Our staff may know them as the HDC, Jag, Trunk, and the Grill. Unfortunately, our guests aren't in on these abbreviations. Perhaps the most frustrating thing you can do to a guest is just pass them off to somebody else.
I'm sorry, sir. The train is closed for maintenance.
Oh, I've been waiting in line for 20 minutes.
Jake at the Grill will give you your money back.
Hey man, how's it going? What can I do for you today?
Yeah, well, Grizzly down at the depot said that I need to talk to you about getting my money back for the train station since I had to wait 20 minutes in line just to find out it was closed due to maintenance.
Oh, well, if you go down to the front entrance, you can talk to Peggy in the information office.
Yes, sir, what can I do for you?
So, I had to wait 20 minutes in line for the train just to find out that it was out due to maintenance. Now, Randy said you could help me get my money back.
Sorry, sir. Sally takes care of that.
Okay, Peggy said I needed to come talk to you in order to get my money back, which I missed waiting on the train for 20 minutes just to find out that it was closed due to maintenance.
You probably need to speak to Grizzly at the depot then.
Can I speak to the manager?
Now, it's totally fine to call a supervisor for backup, but sending a guest to another location is never a good idea. If a guest has a question or complaint, listen. If you can help, do so. If it requires further action, just call for backup. Don't send them somewhere else. Asking an already upset guest to take their issue elsewhere will do nothing but add fuel to the fire, and asking a happy guest to take their issue elsewhere will just make them unhappy. Okay, enough with the don'ts, let's talk about the do's. You are an ambassador for the Tulsa Zoo, so speak first. We don't want a zombie staff wandering around being unhelpful. It's your job to greet any guest that comes within 10 feet of you. Say hello and welcome. Talk to the kids about their favorite animal. Make eye contact and smile. The list goes on and on and on, and definitely don't do this.
How many?
Excuse me? Holly, I'm so sorry.
Hi.
You know how you'd react if you saw a good friend at the zoo? Greet every guest just like a friend, just don't go in for the hug. That's a little much. Listen, this is the most important do of them all. The best way to diffuse an angry guest is to simply stop talking and start listening. When they're done venting, ask them, what could we do to better the situation in the future? Always feel empowered to offer the guest tickets for them to come back. We never want any guest to leave the zoo feeling angry. Next, thank every guest. If we didn't have any guests, we wouldn't have any jobs. It's as simple as that. We should appreciate the heck out of our guests, and every interaction with a thank you. Even when you have somebody complaining your ear off, thank them for letting us know what we can do better next time. A thank you is the perfect way to send a guest off when sincere.
Hi, how can I help you today? I drove all the way from Arkansas to see polar bears, and there are no polar bears? You've got to be kidding me! This zoo is awful!
Well, thank you for your feedback. Hope you have a nice day.
Lastly, know your stuff. The best way to get to know the zoo better is to spend your time here. We encourage you to visit on your days off. Walk around when you have a break, and most of all, ask questions. The more that you know, the more that you can tell our guests. We've made a quick reference guide for you for some of our most frequently asked questions. These flipbooks should be located at all points of contact with our guests. Thumb through if you get a question that you don't have the answer off the top of your head. Most likely it will be there. I don't know is never an answer. I'll find out is always the answer if you get a question you're not sure about. Now that we've talked about guest service basics, let's see what I've been talking about in action. One last thing that I forgot to mention, we always stop and wave at the train. Alright, service talk is done. Now for some talk on general zoo policies. The following 2 items should be obvious, but we live in a world where bags of nuts say, "Warning, contains nuts," so I'll put this as clearly as possible. Do not come to work under the influence of alcohol or drugs. State law prohibits smoking on zoo grounds. If you must smoke, check with your supervisor on designated smoking areas, or better yet, quit. Your lungs and those around you will thank you. This is your Zooniform. We will issue logo shirts to be worn with black, khaki, or olive pants, shorts, or skirts. Always tuck in your shirt. Wear a belt if you have belt loops. Wear comfortable athletic footwear and your name tag. Your Zooniform has been designed to be a polished and professional work of art, so don't mess with perfection. Here are some don'ts. It just hurts me to see this uniform abused like that.
Oh, there. Don't cry. At least my uniform's perfect.
Well, it may be perfect, but your bag is exerting its own gravitational pull. Plus, it's just distracting. And in all honesty, the best place for your personal belongings is at home. If you do decide to bring your personal belongings with you to work, just make sure that they're stored while you're working. This means that you can't carry your bag around with you all day. Ask your supervisor where there's a place you can store your belongings while you're working. What could you possibly have in a bag that big anyway?
I mean, just the usual stuff. Some balloons. Confetti. Some balls. Oh, my trusty miniature shotgun, and definitely my sword.
Whoa. Let me stop you right there. I think it's time to talk about objects that are not acceptable in the zoo. First of all, nothing that you just pulled out is acceptable. It's sad, but we have to confiscate a lot of personal items that people bring into the zoo. While I think it's really sad to take a child's balloon away, we have to think of the safety of our animals first. We are happy to hold personal belongings at the information office until the guest is ready to collect them on their way out of the zoo. Aside from the items that we just pulled out, anything on wheels is not acceptable except for a stroller or a wheelchair. This includes skateboards, tricycles, big wheels, Hummers, 747s, anything that could possibly create a hazardous situation for our guests. Also, a lot of people like to try and sneak their teacup-sized dogs into the zoo. And despite the obvious razor-toothed predatory reasons, people still seem determined to bring their little dogs into the zoo. Simply put, pets are not welcome in the zoo, and here's why. Even vaccinated pets can carry diseases that make our animals sick. We also have several exhibits with free-roaming animals, and this could pose a threat to your pet and our collection. So, if you see a dog on the grounds, alert security or your supervisor to the situation. We do, of course, make exceptions for service animals. Even then, there are a couple exceptions. For the safety of the service animal, we cannot allow them near the children's contact yard. Yes, goats do tend to mob unfamiliar creatures. We do draw the line at service dogs. For the health of our hoofstock, miniature horses will not be allowed on the grounds. Service dogs are well trained and should not cause a disruption. Don't assume it's okay to pet it. The dog is working, not playing. We've also been seeing a new trend the last couple of years: therapy dogs. These dogs may or may not have any kind of special training, and they're typically a toy breed. The only thing we can legally ask is the dog required for a disability, and what is it trained to do? We do have to take their answers at face value, and if they say the dog is required, we do have to let them in. Just warn them about the areas that they cannot go, and via radio alert your supervisor that a therapy dog is on the grounds. So once again, if you see a dog, alert your supervisor and we'll make the decision whether the dog can stay on the grounds. If not, we can hold it in the admissions office until the guest is ready to leave. While on duty, you may come in contact with a guest in an emergency situation. The most common emergencies are injuries and lost children. If you encounter a lost child situation, the first thing you need to do is locate a radio and notify security. Give them as much information as possible and specify whether you are with a parent who lost a child or with a found child. The child's name, gender, race, age, and clothing are all critical pieces of information. Security will come to your location and take it from there. It is important to stay off the radio until the child is reunited with the parents. If you are working in guest services at the front of the zoo, it is also important to keep an eye on the gate for a child matching the lost child's description. In case of a minor emergency like a scrape or a bee sting, offer antiseptic wipes, sting stop, antibiotic ointment, and bandages from your first aid kit. Ask your supervisor where yours is located. For more serious injuries, call security for assistance. This is Oklahoma, where the weather changes 7 times a day and the climate generally tries to kill you. So let's talk about weather emergencies. Alright, in the case of a weather emergency like a tornado, an alert will be called over the radio. Whenever an emergency is called on the radio, we do maintain radio silence, so the people in charge of handling the emergency have a clear channel of communication. If we are under a severe weather watch, your job is to simply inform the guests that we're under a severe thunderstorm or tornado watch and that some of the animals have been secured for safety reasons. Guests will also be informed that if weather conditions continue to deteriorate, they will be instructed to follow a zoo staff member's instructions. No siren is sound on a severe weather watch. For a severe weather warning, the procedure depends on the situation. Our main objective is to inform any guest we see of the situation. Security will make announcements over the PA system, but it's important to inform every guest that you see. Our parking lots flood very easily, so in the case of a flash flood warning, we would like to ask our guests to move their cars out of Mohawk Park before the waters become dangerous. Security will be there to assist them. In the case of a severe thunderstorm, our guests will probably be very well aware of it because their clothes are going to be wet and their shoes are going to be soggy, but just in case, direct them to the nearest shelter or exit. We don't normally offer rain checks, but if they do ask, we're usually pretty accommodating, especially if they're soaked to the bone and shivering. If the situation becomes more serious and we need to get to shelter, you will be directed by your manager to a storm shelter. Your job will be encouraging every guest you see to come with you. Once in a shelter, stay calm and wait for the all clear. Remember that even after the storm has passed, we don't call an all clear until we have determined that no animals escaped during the storm. This leads us into our next topic, animal escape.
Run! Run for your lives! We're all gonna die!
Okay, one, that's more of a children's zoo animal. We're talking more about lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh my!
But that's a great and perfect example of what not to do in the event of an animal escape.
Thank you.
It is an extremely rare occasion that an animal escapes or someone foolishly jumps into an animal enclosure, but it can happen. In this situation, it will be the job of admissions staff to secure the front gates and encourage all guests to move to safety while once again maintaining radio silence. Explain to guests that there is an animal emergency and for safety reasons, they need to move to a secure area. If they refuse, call your supervisor for backup. The last thing that we need to cover is an attractions emergency. Accidents can happen, and when they do, we need to collect as much information as possible. The first thing we need to do, especially in the case of a train derailment, is keep everyone in the area until we document every person on the train. We want names and phone numbers of every man, woman, and child, and where they were seated at the time of the accident. This will be the responsibility of the attractions team and security. If they need more assistance, they will call for it. Otherwise, just stay out of the way. If you are working at the front, you may be asked to take golf carts to the area to assist guests who are riding to the front. If anyone wants to make additional statements on the way out, have pen and paper ready for them, along with complimentary tickets if we feel that is an appropriate gesture. Make sure you listen to the guests. That is the most important thing to do in this situation. Document any additional information because the more we know about how and why an accident occurred, the better we will be at preventing it next time. If you ever get bored at work and want some light reading to pass the time, grab a quick emergency reference guide conveniently located at all service locations. It will tell you everything you need to know about handling an emergency.
Well, that brings us to the end. So, everybody grab your number 2 pencils while your manager passes out the Scantrons for the exam. And remember, you must make a 90% or higher to retain your employment. Just kidding, no test. But please, try to remember everything we learned here, and welcome to your new job at the Tulsa Zoo.